All right. Good morning, Mumbai. Thank you very much for coming in such large numbers, braving the rain. My name is Jayanth again. I'm a product manager at Google. What that means is I build products. I build products with engineers, and it has been nothing short of an honor for me to work with such talented people. What I'm going to be doing in the next hour here with all of you is to kind of showcase a pretty broad range of products, right? And the approach I've taken to do this is to show how these technologies or these products can be woven into the way we all lead our lives. And I'm going to take my own life. It's like most of yours. I'm just a guy who works as a product manager in a company, right? How these technologies influence my life before I get to work, my life at work, my life after work, and everything in between, okay? I'm going to try to keep this interactive because the audience at each of these G days has been a fair bit different, and there is enough and more I can speak about. So as I ask you questions, just honestly tell me answers, and then we can suitably adapt the storyline, all right? So the way I'm going to start this whole thing is the way my life began today, right? I live in Bangalore. I came this morning and opened the curtain. It was raining, right? So I wanted to know what the weather is. So I said, all right, let me take my Android phone and do this. Let me open up Google Now. How many of you here have used Google Now? All right, great. So Google Now brings together a bunch of things, but before I describe what Google Now is, let me just tell you what I did this morning. I just went in and I said, Google, what is the weather outside?
It's 77 degrees with light rain in Mumbai.
Okay. That is one aspect of Google Now, right? So Google Now, for those of you who don't know, is, sorry about that, I need to be pushing this up a little bit so you all can see. Okay. So Google Now is a product that is bundled with the Jelly Bean distribution of Android. Of course, you can also install it on ICS. The reason it's called Google Now is not really because of these speech recognition aspects, but because Google has typically been a pull service, right? Web search in particular. So we all go and we say, we go in and type in and we say something, or we go in and say, give me directions to this place, so on and so forth. But the reality is the extent to which we all use Google and the fact that we use it a lot on the mobile allows us to take advantage of context. Simple aspects of context, but very powerful aspects nevertheless. We can figure out which location you are in, we can figure out what the time of the day is, and we can use this to do a couple of things. One is we can make the whole interaction with Google feel far more natural, right? So instead of going and asking something like, what is the weather in Mumbai like today, I can just say, what is the weather outside, because my phone knows I'm in Mumbai, right? That was a simple example. There are some other aspects to Google Now which are in fact pretty fascinating. Let's take a look at what this has, right? Let's just give it a second to load here. Bring it back up. Okay. So what it has done here is it has integrated information from all the different Google services I use and brought it to me, taking advantage of my context. As an example, I have a meeting this morning at 11 o'clock in my office in Bangalore. It brings it up. It obviously shows me the weather, and let me click on show more cards, right? It is going to tell me, because it knows from my Google Calendar that I have a flight to catch this evening back to Bangalore. It tells me how long it's going to take to get there. And of course, for those of you who have been following the news, we now have traffic information on Google Maps in India. So you can actually go in there, you can actually see on the map, you pay close attention, the red, green, yellow line, so on and so forth, right, to indicate the level of traffic. It shows me transit information, so on and so forth, right. So it actually brings information to me, taking advantage of my location and time context, and hence the name Google Now, all right. So I kind of got sidetracked from my original script. I started out with what I did this morning, but I've quickly gone on to kind of talk to you about Google Now. That's how this whole session is going to roll. I'm going to use things that we do in our daily lives to kind of build on it a little bit, all right. So okay, I got my weather. Of course, I can have more interesting questions. I can ask ages of cinema actors, and I can ask it to call my wife, so on and so forth, and of course it would work, right? So let's now switch gears a little bit and move to my next activity in the morning, which is to read the news, right? I'm going to go in and can we please switch over to my Chromebook, please? So the first thing I do is I go in and I'm going to open my newspaper. I grew up in Chennai, so my newspaper of choice happens to be the Hindu. So I'm going to say www. Okay, why should I do all this? I just say the Hindu. There you go. I'm going to open the Hindu, and while I'm reading the news, I get distracted, right? I want to know, okay, what happened in the Bay Area? So I just go and say TechCrunch. I want to know what happened with startup scene. I know that TechCrunch has been running a pretty interesting hackathon called Disrupt. I want to read up what happened at Disrupt yesterday. So all this is going on, right? Okay, Blue Jeans Network brings video conferencing software to salesforce.com. Okay. So let's say just click on something, right? While this is going on, typically what happens is you get your first disruption for the day. In my case, it happens to be a missed call, and that's because my Google cabbie is waiting downstairs. We get a ride to the office with 2 or 3 of us sharing a cab, and so I say, okay, let me just go down, right? So let me just click through some story here so that you all know what's going on. I'm going to click on this, and now let's say I get my missed call, right? Once I get my missed call, let's just step back and think what happens typically. You shut down your machine, you grab your backpack, and you run downstairs, get into the car, and say hello to your friends, and then you say, okay, what was I reading? I was reading about this article on TechCrunch, and I, insert my dongle in, and I would go search for that article, right? I'll show you what life rolls like these days, right? And this has been the way it's been for almost a year now for me. So can you please bring the focus to my mobile phone, please? Okay, you all can see my mobile phone there? Very good. So I have Chrome on my mobile phone. I bring it up, and I'm going to open a new tab. Just see what happened there. Magically, Chrome remembers all the tabs that I had open on my Chromebook here. And it says these are all the different tabs I had open, right? And you can see those tabs up there. So now I'm going to just go in and I'm going to pick up that article on Blue Jeans Network bringing its video conferencing to some place or the other. All right? Let's just step back and think about this. So, Neeraj was asking how many of you know how many users were there on the internet back in 1995. So back in 1995, I was actually pretty fortunate to be at this place called NCSA. It was National Center for Supercomputing Applications in Urbana, Illinois. And I was just a grad student there. And these guys had just built Mosaic. Mosaic was the first, graphical web browser that was out there following Lynx, which was a text browser. So I distinctly recall, even back from those days, we all used to think, wow, there will be phones someday, there will be PDAs someday, and people will be browsing, and it's going to be such a mess when you go from device to device. How are you going to remember? Because the web was going to proliferate. I mean, in '94 when I was a student, you could pretty much walk into the loo and you could ask somebody standing next to you and say, hey, did you check out this website, www.cmu.edu/something or the other. From there, 1995, you already had Yahoo, right? Now, the web has finally caught on, at least Chrome has caught on, wherein as you move from device to device, the web just travels with you. You no longer have to worry about anything about things that are extraneous to the actual web browsing experience. So in this case, I just come to my mobile phone, I'm able to pull up the article, no need to search for anything, it's just there, right? And what's cool is my back button works too. I hit back and it will take me back to the hindu.com. If you remember, that was the sequence. So what just happened there was Chrome has synchronized its tabs across machines. It has also cached the content. It remembers my history. If you ask me, this is the way browsers should have worked all along. Thank God we're finally there, right? So now let's kind of keep rolling. So now I'm in my car, I'm reading my news, things are looking good. I have my colleague Gaurav with me in the car, and both of us happen to be music junkies. He also is a yachting junkie, as you'll all know pretty soon. So he and I start talking, and he talks to me about this pretty interesting application called BeatLab on the Chrome Web Store. How many of you here have used the Chrome Web Store? Okay, I see most hands going up, so I'm not going to waste a lot of time on the Chrome Web Store itself, but let me just walk you through the experience, right? Because it's a pretty telling experience. So he tells me about this application called BeatLab. So let me first go ahead and open and show you what the Chrome Web Store looks like, right? So I'm going to go and say Chrome Web Store. There you go. I have a theme installed, so you're not able to see it directly on my, when I open a new tab, but okay. So let's just stop and stare at this for a second, because I think more than BeatLab, this tells you something. So the Chrome Web Store is basically a set of applications that are on the web, right? That you can access through this nice marketplace-like interface on Chrome. And look at the range of applications. You have everything from business tools to games to themes and extensions, right? Everything that all of us who love the web use a lot. Now, when I first saw the Chrome Web Store, the message that jumped at me back then, and it still jumps at me as I see this store becoming more and more prolific in its distribution of apps, is, well, the web is the new platform, and the browser is more or less what the operating system was, right? So developers are writing applications, and many of these are applications that they're monetizing on, betting on the browser, right? And now, just to kind of illustrate this point, let's just go to BeatLab for a minute, right? Go to BeatLab, I find it there, I click on it, find it, I'm going to rate it, I come there, I'm just going to launch app, right? Now, compare and contrast this to what life was like even just a few years ago, right? I would go on the web, search for this application, find some zip file or some compressed file, download it, unzip it, go through some installation screens. All that is gone. This is just a web service sitting somewhere, nicely packaged and marketed. It shows up as an app, and I'm able to just use it. So having gotten this far, let's just play with this BeatLab for a minute. I can go in, I can just go ahead and create a nice little drum loop for myself. And then so just look at it. Since morning, I have woken up, I've taken advantage of Google Now to get to know what the weather outside is like. I've showcased you some capabilities of Google Now in there. We used my Chromebook to go browse the web, and demonstrated how Chrome Tab Sync allows you to just carry the web with you without having to worry about all the overhead tasks of remembering the links, so on and so forth. I could continue browsing by the web on my mobile phone, and then once I came onto my laptop, I could identify an application, get my creative juices flowing. My morning is looking pretty good so far, right? So all this is happening, and let's say I reach my office, and that moves to scene 2 of the product showcase. So now in the office, I'm going to be talking to you about a range of applications that we all use on a daily basis, and there are 2 themes I would like you to take away with you. One will be collaboration, and I'll talk to you about it in a second. But before that, I want to talk to you about how taking advantage of the cloud is more than just static services. It's about how different services on the cloud just work together without you having to do a single thing, driving up efficiencies for you. Let me just showcase what this is. I'll just close BeatLab for a minute, and please bring the focus back to my Chromebook. So here I am on my Chromebook. Can you bring it back to the Chromebook, please? All right. So I'm going to first walk you through Google Drive. I'm sure most of you here have used Google Drive. Have you all used Google Drive? It used to be called Google Docs before. Okay. So what is Google Drive? Google Drive is basically like my hard disk on the cloud, right? It's like my hard drive on the cloud, hence the name Google Drive. I can upload, files of any sort. I can upload music, I can upload movies, what have you, right? And it just goes there, and one of the most common benefits, or the most obvious benefits of putting things on the cloud, is you can access the content from anywhere, right? To me, and the point here is that that's fine. I mean, that's been the case like forever. If you're like me and you're used to setting up your own FTP servers and things like that, you had this since like 1995 or 1996 or something, right? Fine, there's a web interface and all that makes it more consumer oriented, that's good. But the point about Google Drive is way more than that. It's not just a storage system. Let me demonstrate something for you here. I happen to work on a product called Google Maps. Specifically, I work on something called Google Map Maker. And to be effective on my job, it's important for me to travel a lot, and I do travel a lot. So when I travel, of course, I like to experience the culture of the place, take pictures, hang out with my users, things like that, right? So I have a whole bunch of pictures typically at the end of every 6 months. At the end of the year, it's pretty unmanageable for me. So what I try to do at the end of the year is to just create a little collage or even a collection of all the different places I saw, just to kind of reflect back on kind of the experiences I've had, right? So here you see my Google Drive. It has everything from the content I use for meditating to pictures I've taken to some write-up about Alaska, so on and so forth, right? So what I do know is I took pictures in several parts of Europe, right? I'm just going to go in and I'm going to say Leaning Tower. And it pulls up an image called italy1.jpg. Let's open it up and see what it has. There you go. I can go in. I know that I took a picture in Paris. I'm going to look for the Eiffel Tower next. Eiffel Tower. There you go. parisbank.jpg, right? Now, what I'm trying to indicate here is, if you're like me, you take your pictures on your camera phone, you either use instant upload from Android or you plug it in using USB. What you get is a large stream of files which looks like 1234556.jpg, 89100000.jpg, things like that, which make no sense, right? Now, if I had to create an album of all the pictures I took in Italy or in France or what have you, it would be a mind-numbing exercise. I would have to go through each picture. Think about this. I'm talking about a collection of 1,000 pictures. It's enormously time-consuming. It's time-consuming enough that I will actually never do it, right? What I just showcased here is, I just put this up on the Google Cloud. I did not do a single thing, right? The services on the cloud just work for me. This is the point I want to make. So Google Drive is not just about storage, it's about, let me just call it intelligent storage, right? I can go query. I can even do optical character recognition. I'll give you another example, right? So one of the consequences of traveling a lot is you have a bunch of reimbursements to deal with. So I know that I took the cab, for example, from my hotel in Barcelona to the airport, right? That's all I know. I don't know which company this was. Everything was in Spanish, and too bad for me, I don't know Spanish, right? So I'm going to go in and look for taxi. Let's see what it finds. It says barcelonacab.jpg. Let's just open it up. And if you look at here in the top right, there is actually the word taxi. And it was obviously an image. It was a JPEG file, right? So what's happening here is that the cloud did image recognition for me in the first few photos I showed. Here it's doing optical character recognition. It's scanning through the files, telling me that the word taxi is there. For those of us who are computer scientists out there, we know that these things, cloud storage. Now I want to touch upon a very, very core aspect of the Office experience, which is collaboration, right? And there is no way I can kind of show demonstrations where the kind of the theme is collaboration, where I don't have anybody to collaborate with. So it's my pleasure to invite my friend and colleague Gaurav Shinde onto the stage. So for those of you who don't know about Gaurav, it's too bad. You guys just need to pick up yesterday's newspaper and read. It's the same guy. So he's the star here. So I will not tell you who he is. You guys need to figure out and then get his autograph after that. Now, Gaurav and I obviously work at Google. And what we're going to be doing for the next 10, 20 minutes is to showcase to you several aspects of Google products where people are the real juice, right? I mean, people are the ones who make this whole experience interesting. Part one of this is going to be collaboration in the office. Before I get into the actual product showcase part of this, let me just walk you through kind of a travel back in time, if you will, right? In about 2004, 2006, I guess, right? I used to be a management consultant, and I used to work with large Fortune 100 companies, trying to help them drive up operational efficiencies and this and that, the kind of stuff that people typically call a consulting firm for. And the big thing then was I was dealing with these large companies who are selling so-called collaboration platforms, right? So you open the box, and what it would have is IM, email, voice over IP, all mixed and matched, and there will be like something with with a directory of all names, so on and so forth. Great. Look at how we actually work, right? If your offices are like ours, we all sit in a common space. I sit with engineers. I'm basically an engineer myself. I sit with a bunch of them. My designer sits there. the people, if I worked on a monetizable product, my sales team sits there, my marketing person sits here, and I just walk over and I talk to them, right? Never in my life, I think, have I ever told my colleagues, okay, dude, let's now collaborate, right? Because collaboration is an intrinsic part of the way we work. It's not something separate, right? And the moment you kind of divorce collaboration away from the tools that you use for doing your actual work, it begins to feel very artificial. So to showcase how all this comes together, I'm going to walk you through a very, very basic experience. I'm going to start there, right? I'm going to use something called Google Docs. How many of you here have used Google Docs and have used sharing on Google Docs? Awesome. So this is going to be really quick. It's just going to be the starting point for our story here. So why don't you go ahead and ping me now, Gaurav. All right, so he says, hey, I'm going to say, so Gaurav is typing. Some new ideas today. All right, so we are going to try to write up a document on some ideas, right? Okay. Let me open a doc. Okay, I'm going to go to my Google Drive and I'm going to create a new document, not a presentation. And while it loads, I'm going to give it a name. I'm going to call it Brainstorming in Mumbai. All right. I'm going to share it with Gaurav. I'm going to say you can edit it and I'm going to share and save, right? This is all pretty routine stuff for most of you. I'm going to come in and just to drive home this point, I'm going to put a horizontal rule and Gaurav is going to type at the bottom and I'm going to type at the top. I'm going to say some good ideas on a rainy day. All right, and I'm going to say one, I'm going to say, let's come up with ideas. We'll say, how about free internet for all? How about putting you on a yacht around the world? How about me taking all the credit for that? Okay. Okay, so we are just typing away, so on and so forth, right? And just compare and contrast this, right? In a life far, far away in a different universe, this would have happened in two different documents. There could be 20, 30 people in this conversation for that matter. Imagine 20, 30 people all putting together little snippets of information and some poor intern that we hire to kind of collate all this, put it together and kind of, argue, say sir 1,000 times to get this thing figured out and then finally have one document. Here instead we are just going and making changes right away. We are adding comments, so on and so forth. It's all happening real time. People are collaborating the way you would if you are all sitting in the same office. Now is the first bit that I'm going to be showing you, which I think is pretty interesting. A reality of life is not everybody is going to be in the same time zone. Not everybody is going to be in the office all the time. So we all do go offline as a matter of routine, right? It's a given. So what I'm going to do to simulate this scenario is I'm going to ask Gaurav to go offline, right? So there you go. He's going to pull out his Ethernet, right? And while he's offline, I want you to pay attention to his screen there and my screen here, right? I'm just going to keep typing away. I'm going to keep typing away. I'm going to say these ideas were when Gaurav went offline, right? How about putting a person in Curiosity v2.0? How about that person being someone from India? That would rock, right? So on and so forth. I'm just typing away. And the other thing I do is, I have some thoughts on some of the ideas he put there. How about sailing boats for transport in Mumbai? It took me 4 kilometers. Okay, so I'm going to come in and say, you know what? I'm going to come in and put in a comment there. Actually, I'm going to just delete it. I'm going to say, I know you are a sailor, but most are not. Actually, I choose to make that a comment, and I want to delete this whole thing. I want to say, note, I am deleting this, okay? And I'm going to make this whole thing a comment. Let's just see what I do. I'm going to go there. I'm going to insert a comment. And I'm going to say, you are a sailor, not all Mumbaikars, okay? And I'm going to come here, and I'm going to delete this whole thing, okay? So now let's see what happens when Gaurav comes back online, right? So I added a bunch of stuff, I deleted some of his stuff. Let's see what happens, right? There you go. Even before he knew about it, what has happened is that all the changes that I made are now shown, are now synchronized without him having to do anything, right? Just think about what this would look like otherwise. We'd have to kind of go back and forth, exchange emails, so on and so forth. Now the changes just synchronize automatically, right? So that is another aspect of how the technology just adapts, has been built so that it meshes with how we all do our work on a day-to-day basis. Most of us are lazy people. We don't like to keep track of our receipts. It would be great if somebody can just tell us, this is your taxi receipt. Most of us are definitely lazy when it comes to renaming pictures from a digital camera or a phone, because these things run into the hundreds or tens, right? And it takes a lot of time. And most of us do work in situations where we are in different time zones or we do go offline. And when these things happen, there should be no additional burden any of these introduces to the core task at hand. Whether it was finding your receipts, whether it was organizing your pictures, or whether it was creating a document. You just stay focused on that task, everything else just happens. So that was with regards to collaboration in the office space. Before we transition over to life after work, I'm going to be focusing on one other aspect of how we work in the office, right? So if most of you, I'm sure, work in situations where at some point or the other, somebody in your team is not physically in the same space. Either you are working in a large company with offices all over the world, or you work for a small company where your own engineer doubles up as a sales engineer and he's on a customer site and you need to be in touch with him or her, so on and so forth, right? So when these things happen, obviously we have much better alternatives than phone calls. For a while now we have video conferences, so on and so forth. But what I'm going to be focusing here on is an aspect of the Google Plus platform called Google Plus Hangouts. How many of you have used a Google Plus Hangout? Fantastic. So Google Plus Hangouts are way more than a 10-party video conference, right? That would be kind of the very functional way to describe what it is. What a Hangout is what you can do if you assume a 10-party video conference is just a given. Now, depending on the context you are in, the kinds of things you can do on top of a Hangout do vary significantly, right? In all my previous G days, I've given examples of how you can have experiences which are in the personal social space, right? I mean, have fun with friends, watch YouTube, so on and so forth. In this G days, the last one for this year, I chose to kind of do something a little bit different, right? And the reason I chose to do something a little bit different is Hangouts have actually become a platform, more of a platform in the last 2 months than ever before. We have third parties writing applications to Hangouts. How many of you here have actually written an application to a Hangout? Nobody. So this should be pretty interesting for you. So in the context of collaboration, I'm going to say both of us are working on some organizational design. Maybe we are in the HR department. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to go back to my Mac. My Mac here, please. I'm going to close Beat Lab. Leave this page, please. No problem. And I'm going to go into my Google Plus stream. And I'm going to do something here. I'm going to open my chat window. I'm going to look for Shinde.gdays. There he is. And I'm going to open a Hangout. All right? Let me remember to mute my mic, otherwise the feedback is going to drive you all crazy. So Gaurav should be joining us momentarily. All right, he has joined. So far this is nothing great, right? I mean, this is like any video conferencing application. Fine, we could have 10 people on this, so on and so forth. But I wanted to pay attention to this row of buttons at the top. This is what I mean by telling a Hangout is about what you can do if you assume a 10-party video conference is a given. And there are a bunch of applications, right? We can get goofy, we can give each other Google effects, so on and so forth. Look at this button called Add Application. Let's just click it and see what happens. These are developers who have actually written applications for Google Hangout. So tomorrow there will be a session on the Hangout API. How many of you here are actually developers? Software developers. Great. It's an opportunity for all of you to actually create apps like this, right? So let me pick up one. I'm going to pick this one called Kaku for Hangouts. Let's see what it does. And Gaurav, you can open the same thing. So what this is it allows me to create a range of diagrams, right? And I can do this as a team. So you can look at my screen here and you can look at Gaurav's screen there. So I'm going to create a new diagram. And obviously because I'm on a Hangout with him, whatever I do is just going to show up on his screen as well. So just stop and think about the power of this, right? The two of us could be collaborating and we could be, if I really wanted to get to my work, I could start doing the kinds of things that I normally do, which is to start creating wireframes for various applications. I can pick a freehand wireframe, iPhone wireframe, Android wireframe, so on and so forth. I could be drawing UML diagrams if I'm doing some pretty detailed software design. I could be drawing network diagrams, but for the purposes of this presentation, I'm just going to pick something that a lot of us can relate to. We're going to draw an org chart. So let's assume that Gaurav and I work in the HR department and we want to create an org chart. Maybe, we acquired some company or reorged or whatever it is. So Gaurav is editing that. I'm going to edit this. I'm going to call this guy medium manager. He's somewhere in the middle. I'm going to call this guy wants to be a manager. Okay, I'm going to call this guy happy to not be a manager, so on and so forth, right? So we are creating this together. We can go crazy here. I can go here and I can pick up a stencil. I can go ahead and add people's photos. So I can make Smith look like this person. You can imagine this being like real photos or whatever. I can go ahead and add this person as a media manager. I can make this girl here. Somebody wants to be a manager, so on and so forth. Just look at it, right? We are two people working on an application, and this could be a multi-party Hangout. There could be 10 people, 20 people, depending on if you're an enterprise customer or a consumer. Imagine the power of the platform, right? While doing all this, just to keep things sane, we are not talking. Otherwise, we could be talking at the same time. We could be chatting at the same time. We could be screen sharing, all built on top of a 10-party video conference. And this is an application that was built by a third party. Each of you could be doing this, right? You could be doing this for your own intranets. You could be doing this to monetize it as a separate business on your own, what have you, right? So what I've demonstrated here is the power of the Google Plus Hangouts platform in the context of work. You can also play with other applications. You can click on YouTube, for example, and you can watch a movie. You can go to youtube.com/movies. There are more than 1,000 movies in there that are all licensed. You can pull up any one of them, watch it with 10 friends all around the world, and you'll all be watching the same thing. While this is happening, you can chat, you can press a push to talk button, and you can actually talk to each other. You can do an IM. All this can be happening at the same time. So summary is, a Hangout is what you can do above and beyond a 10-party video conference, all right? So now let's shift gears. Let's look at life after work. But before that, I need to thank Gaurav for spending time with me here on the stage. Thank you very much, Gaurav. And now I'll be focusing on life after work. So if you look at life after work, if you're like me, the reason I work, the reason I went to college, everything was to have a life after work, right? I enjoy meeting friends and family. I enjoy pursuing my own interests, music, so on and so forth. And if you look at it in the context of friends and family, most of the meetings happen in the context of some event or the other. Very rarely do you have the scenario where you're just walking on the road and you're just bumping into a friend, right? More often than not, it's a scheduled meeting at a coffee shop or at a movie, or it's a send-off party for somebody, or it's a product launch celebration, so on and so forth, right? So we call these events, more very broadly speaking, right? Even this one, the G-Days event in Mumbai, is an event, right? So given that so much of our social lives revolves around events, one of the things we chose to do in the Google Plus platform, because it's of course a social platform, is to make the process of giving events an online identity far, far simpler. To kind of develop an appreciation for this, think about how most of us organize like personal or social events these days, right? The way it would normally work is we pick a date for the event, we make a list of people whom we want to invite, then we go into our email applications and find out their email addresses for each of those names, and then we use some online tool. There are many wonderful tools out there to create an invitation, and we put in all those email addresses. All these people get the invitations, they accept, reject, whatever it is, and you get the status in there, right? Once this happens, the event itself rolls along, and maybe it's a birthday party or whatever, and everybody comes. And of course, everybody comes with a mobile phone or with a camera or with a digital camera itself, and people start taking pictures. And once these pictures are all taken and the event is done and people got the return gifts and they're all gone, now you say, okay, where are all those pictures, right? So now you have to call up all these different people, get all their photos, maybe three or four of them will actually respond to you, send those pictures, create online albums. It's a lot of work. Now let us look at that experience and see how we can simplify it with Google Plus events, right? So let me close Google Plus Hangouts for a second, and let's look at my Google Plus page and click on this little tab called Events. How many of you here have actually created a Google Plus event before? Okay, not many of you. So let me walk you through this experience a bit slowly. So you come here, under Events you first go ahead and say create an event, right? And if you are like me, you take immense pride and pleasure in how beautiful some of these pictures look. These are infographics. If you look at it, if this is like a, I don't know, a lakeside, laid back kind of a party, if that's the venue, then you get a nice photo, but there are these little accents which make it really pretty, right? So you have, you know, I can just walk you through some of these things, and you can see this little butterfly is actually, you know, you can see this little reflection on this guy's helmet, so on and so forth, right? So this is going to be a party I'm going to set up for me and my colleagues. So I'm just going to pick one that's more suited for that. So let's just keep going through till we find something that's actually interesting. So let's pick something here. I don't like any of these things so far. Maybe there's something else. Let's pick, okay, let's pick this one. Let's pick this one, okay. Whoa, yeah. Let's pick this one, fine, that's okay. So we pick this one up, and I'm going to give it a title. I'm going to say birthday party for Jay, okay. I'm going to pick a date, I'm going to do so on and so forth. Now one of the things you can do is you can enter a location. I'm going to give a location as Bangalore, Karnataka, fine. And details, I'm just going to go invite some people. I'm going to sign up Gaurav. I just invite him. I'm going to go invite a bunch of friends at one shot. I'm going to call them my G-Days gang, and so on and so forth. So far you see, I can just invite people using just their normal names. I don't have to remember what their email addresses are. I can invite a bunch of people that I manage as a circle at one shot, so on and so forth. All that is pretty nice. So once I invite, this is equivalent to going to a separate website, so on and so forth, right? Now obviously I was invited to this too, and this is what a notification looks like, right? So when I open this up, I get this nice notification, and look at this. This is really beautiful. When I get an invitation, the first thing I do is to go to my online calendar, whether it's Google or any other online calendar, and I check, am I going to be available? Here it just happens. I just click on check availability, and it just tells me what's going on, right? I have some meeting with some folks from Belarus, and I have this birthday party for Jay happening at the same time, and I say I'm going, right? So now you see the seamlessness of the whole experience, right? And that is the importance, right? What this does is it removes the seams. It's not a functional improvement. It is an efficiency and an aesthetic game, right? So you go, you select. Now once I do that, I am done, right? A notification is sent to the organizer telling that I am coming, all that is set. Now I'm going to be touching upon the feature that I think really saves a lot of effort, time, and personally I think it's a really, really well done feature. And that's called party mode, right? So to demonstrate that, please bring the focus back to my mobile phone. I'm going to be looking at an event that all of you have been invited to. So let me open my G+ stream here. Okay. I'm going to go in here, I'm going to choose events, and instead of birthday party for J, I'm going to pick up this one. Oh, I guess I've not yet accepted it, or let's see. Let me first go into my Gmail and make sure I've been invited. Have I been invited to this, Sushil? So, okay. So let me see if I can pick one of these things up. That these are all in the future, but let me go into my Gmail and see if I've been invited to this first. Sometimes we just take each other for granted at Google. So I just go in there and I'm going to say, what is this thing called? It's called G-Days. G-Days Mumbai. So part of the plan here is to keep this thing very realistic so that you can all walk back and kind of take these ideas home. So let's see. Can you guys do me a favor and invite me again, please? I don't think I've been invited. One of the nice things while this thing happens, the reason why I can't use an upcoming event is party mode gets turned on typically only after the event has started. So let me just go in and see. I can try and see if any of these things has. So let's pick some other option. Let's go to past, for example. So this was the G-Days in Delhi. So if you look at here, you see this option called party mode. I cannot enable it now because the event is done. But basically what party mode does is once you enable party mode, pictures that you take from your phone during the duration of an event that you have accepted, when you are in that location, look at the amount of context that is just used while I make that assertion. If you accept an event and you happen to be at the location of the event and you happen to be there at the time duration of the event, then pictures that you take are automatically uploaded to an album created for the event. Let's just look at this. Let's look at this event. Of course, I need to be invited for it first, but let me just see if I can see it here. You invited me now? Excellent. So I'm going to accept this event, right? Can you guys bring the focus to my Mac, please? Can you guys bring the focus to my Mac? So I'm going to accept this event and let's go to the event page, right? So if you look at it, you can see that right here, right, as people take pictures, they actually can be uploaded right away. So if you all start taking pictures here, they will all start showing up as an activity stream for the event. And once the event is completed, an album is created. So let's look at one of my past events because I just got selected, got invited into this one. Let me go look at the one that we did for Delhi. So as you can tell, we do a whole bunch of these things. So let me go take a look at G-Days Delhi and look at this. These are all photos that people took during the event, right? And as they take it, it keeps getting uploaded, right? And albums are created. So look at the amount of effort that is saved compared to telling people, send me the pictures, we'll put it together and all that. It just happens. You take pictures and it just shows up. And if you are sensitive to using your 3G data, that's fine too. You don't have to upload it right away. You can just take pictures, and once you upload them into your G+, it will ask you, do you want to add it to this album that was created for this event, right? Because of the timestamp on the picture. So it is pretty amazing. So what I walked you through is the entire life cycle of how you can organize and manage events even at this scale online using the Google Plus Events product. So let me summarize. We have been through 3 different vignettes. We looked at life before getting to work, where we demonstrated the power of Google Now and the benefits of Chrome Tab Sync. And then we looked at the Chrome Web Store, and the message there is that the web is the new platform and the browser is more or less the new operating system. And then we got to work, and at work we looked at Google Drive, and the key theme there is that it's not just storage, it's, if you will, intelligent storage. Services in the cloud just work for you. And we looked at optical character recognition in the context of looking for receipts. We looked at image detection in the context of looking for pictures taken at various places. And then we looked at collaboration, and the key point there is collaboration happens in the context of work. So you will never do anything explicitly to collaborate, it just happens as if you are all working together. We also looked at how Docs works, Google Docs works when you are in offline mode. We looked at how synchronization just happens out of the box. And then we looked at Google Plus Hangouts in the context of work. The emphasis there is you now have APIs for this, you have third parties writing applications to it. We looked at how you can pick a very work-centric application, like for example creating org charts, and how multiple people could work on it together. This was an application developed by a third party, and while this was happening we could have a video conference going on simultaneously. Message again, Hangouts is what you can do on top of a 10-party video conference. It's not just a 10-party video conference. And then we looked at life after work. We focused on Google Plus events. We see how we can remove a lot of the tedium involved in creating and managing events in the physical world using online resources. And the key feature there was the party mode, wherein you can just take pictures and it just gets added to an online album. So that is 3 parts. I have a 4th part to this, which is something that I am very excited about. And the 4th part, I am not going to be doing the talking. I am going to be inviting Mani and Dinesh. Is that Dinesh today, or who do we have today? And Vivek from a wonderful company called OrangeScape. And why am I really excited about it? What I have spoken to you today is what you get out of the Google Cloud, right? So we keep, when I say we in this context, it's the Google team keeps adding capabilities into this, and you keep getting them. But every one of these services, without an exception I have spoken to you today about, comes with an application programming interface, an API. And when we build products, we put a lot of attention into it, because we know very well that the world is a very diverse and complicated place. We cannot solve everybody's problems. What we can do is give APIs for third parties to extend these services, mash them up, add their own business logic, so on and so forth, so that more users in the world get the benefits of these services, right? And that's where I'm really excited to bring Mani, who's the CTO of a company called OrangeScape. These guys use a whole range of Google products and their APIs to create an experience that is truly amazing. Treat this as an example of the power of the Google Cloud, and I will let Mani take over from here.
Right.
Thank you.
Thanks, John.
Sure.
Good morning, everybody. My name is Mani Duraisamy, and this is Vivek Madurai. We are from a company called OrangeScape, and we are here to talk about a new workflow product called KissFlow. Sounds very interesting, isn't it? So, what is a kiss? Anybody? That's fantastic. I thought I landed in a land of Bollywood, but I think there is a lot of techies out here. So KISS means keep it simple and stupid. I mean, that sounds a little arrogant. So we call it keep it simple and smart workflow. That is what KissFlow is all about, right? So Jayanth talks about one end of the consumer application. Now I'm going to talk about the other end, the business end, the enterprise end of the applications. So today you can see that with KissFlow, you can create workflows in your company faster and easier. That's what KissFlow is all about. Let's take a quick look at the presentation. Now, you have in your company, typically if you have traveled all the way from different parts of Mumbai, you would have traveled by cab or whatever means, and then you would, once you go back to your office, you would claim the expenses that you have made to your manager, right? Your manager approves and then sends it to your finance department, and the finance department approves and then he will reimburse it back to you. Now this is okay when you are a small company, but when your company grows larger, tracking them in mails becomes harder. That's when you need an enterprise platform. Google App Engine, which runs on Google Cloud, is a fantastic application development platform that allows you to build such workflow kind of application. But that's not for normal process owners or normal users. you have to be a developer, pretty much a superhero, to be able to build applications on Google App Engine. You need to learn Python, Java, Bigtable, and SQL to be able to build applications. That's a pretty steep learning curve. That's when we thought, how would it be if we can leverage the power of Google App Engine and we can make the user interface as simple as using Google Apps and build workflows on top of it. That's what KISSflow is all about. Let's take a quick look at how it looks like in the real time. Now, here is a company called Dark Knight Enterprises. This company wants to clean up its travel claim workflow. So it asks our Bruce Wayne, the superhero, to create a workflow. So first you name the process, then you start defining the elements in the form. Like for example, for travel claim, you will have parameters like purpose of travel, description, place, expense type, and we are adding another parameter called travel date, which is basically a date parameter, and we will save this. Now let's add another field. We will call this as amount because we want to capture the travel reimbursement amount, and we will make this as a number field, right? And we will make it as a required field, and we will save it. Now, this is how you create a very simple form. It looks very simple as Google Forms, but it's also very sophisticated when you want to define more like rules, and also you want to create tables and sections and so on. So once we create the form, the next step is to create a travel claim workflow. What will a travel claim workflow look like? It will typically have two steps of approval, right? First, you will send it to your manager for approval. So let's put manager approval as the first step. And then we will assign this to Selina Kale, right? So Selina Kale is the Catwoman. So we'll assign the manager as Selina Kale. You can see that automatically the Google Apps users comes inside KISSflow. There is no need to write connectors or code to integrate all of these applications. That's the power of integrating with Google services, right? So on the next step, we will assign this to finance department. So we will call this as finance approval. And for finance approval, instead of assigning it to a single user, let's assign this to a group, a user group. So let's assign this to finance@darkknight.com. So you can see that instead of assigning it to a single user, any user in finance group can now approve this particular task, right? You get a feel for how a workflow can be completed in less than 2 minutes, right? What took months or even weeks of time earlier, we built it in just under 2 minutes. That's the power of KISSflow. Now once this user publishes this workflow to the end users, this is how the screen looks like. It looks very similar to a Gmail-like interface, and when I initiate the request, I can see travel claim. I can click on initiate request, and you will see the exact similar user interface that we defined in stage 2, right? So we will fill in the purpose. Let's say travel to G Days Mumbai, and let's select the place as Mumbai, and travel expense as engineering expense. Come on, we traveled all the way from different parts of Mumbai bearing rain, so engineering should bear the expense for this, right? So let's select the date as today, September 11, and amount as 2,500. Now here is another magic portion. Now I can click on attach docs, and I will be able to see all my Google Docs right there. Again, the power of integrating with Google services, right? I can attach the travel document, and I can attach the flight ticket, and I can submit this item to the next user. So once I submit this item, this moves into Selina Kale. You can see that it's sent to Selina Kale. So if I go into the Selina Kale's login and click on approve request, I'll be able to see the request for travel, right? So I click on the request for travel, and then I can click on progress and see the entire progress of the item. So I can see that it was sent by Bruce Wayne at 11:49 a.m. and then it's waiting for manager approval from Selina Kale. Now you can see the items, and then I can click on approve. Now once I approve this, this item will now move to finance approval, right? So this goes to finance department. You get a feel for it, right? So in under 3 minutes, we developed a workflow, we tested the workflow. What is the purpose of doing this? We want to take a report, and we want to monitor the progress of workflow. So let's go to reporting tab. Now you can see in reporting tab, magically the travel claim comes. We didn't have to code anything. We just did all by configuration, and you can see the total number of items that have been initiated, the ones that I have participated in, and the total number of travel claims. So let's click on the total number of travel claims that have been completed. I can see the entire progress of the item. I can filter it based on expense type, let's say for example by engineering expense, and also by place. So that's basically the power of building products on top of Google App Engine. So to summarize, if you have to go back to the presentation, KissFlow is all about keeping workflows simple and smart. Build a seamless experience with Google products, especially using mails and docs and contacts. You get to what KissFlow has shown you, the power of Google products, and run it on a very scalable and robust platform like Google App Engine. It allows you to scale in day one and build products for the entire world. Now, we also launched a new competition called War of Workflow competition. So if you are people who are interested in developing workflows, you can participate in the workflow contest and get to win a free Nexus 7 tablet. So go ahead and try it. It's also free for 10 users. So if your company is looking for a workflow solution, go ahead and try it. And if your product developers out there who is trying to build new products, look at KissFlow as a way to create new products, right? This will give you a perspective into what kind of products can be built. Thanks a lot for your time. Back to Jayanth.
So, okay. So I just wanted to wrap up and say that what we have seen here is essentially a showcase of a range of Google products and products that amazing developers are building, taking advantage of the APIs of these products. I'm sure many of you will have questions. I'll be available the whole day today to answer questions along with many of my colleagues. But for those of you who are interested in kind of deep diving into these technologies and the APIs themselves, day 2 is for you. There are sessions on the Android API, sessions on the Hangouts API, sessions on the Google Apps API, Maps API, so on and so forth. So definitely kind of, visit us again tomorrow if you want to get an insight into how these APIs work and learn to write some sample code, so on and so forth. Thank you all for your attention.